Hi, it's Frog. I'd like to do an obvious analysis about economies. There's a lot of talk about socialism, capitalism, trickle-down, and any number of other terms, and I thought I'd make a quick video just to sort of display those qualities as simply as I can. There's also been a lot of talk about how best to run an economy, and I thought I'd dig into that too. Let's start with this. Economies are not about money. I'm going to say that again. Economies are not about money. Money has no inherent value. It's a symbol, a stand-in for value. Instead, economies are about widgets. And by widgets, I mean all the things we make and do with ourselves. An economy is, at its heart, a method by which a society becomes productive. Let me show you that by showing you life without money. Because this is Bob. And Bob really wants a bicycle. Now, Bob can't make bicycles. Wouldn't know where to start. But he can make delicious burgers. So Bob needs a way to turn his burgers into a bicycle. Good news. Over here is Terry. And Terry, he makes bicycles. Really good ones. So Bob rolls up to Terry and says, "Psst, psst. Hey, Terry, I've got an idea. Let's make a trade. I'll give you burgers. I'll give you all the burgers you can eat for a month, and you give me a bicycle. You get something you can't make. I get something I can't make. Everyone benefits." Which would be great. Both of them would get rid of the thing they can make more of, and get something they can't. Except Terry's a vegetarian. He doesn't want burgers. He has no need for burgers. So he tells Bob to go pound sand, and Bob is left without a bicycle. Terry still has more bicycles than he needs, but he wants to find someone else to trade them for. Terry, in turn, goes to Jacob. Now, Jacob's a tomato farmer, and Terry's looking to make a deal. "I've got a bicycle, you've got tomatoes," he says. "Let's make a deal." And of course, Jacob, he doesn't want a bicycle. This is what money is for. What we all want is to make stuff and then trade that stuff for all the things we need in life. All the groceries, car parts, furniture, electronics, everything you have in life. And instead of bartering, this happened. Because Jacob does want to sell his tomatoes to Terry. He just tells Terry, "Sell your bike to someone else and give me the money. Later, I'll use the money to get something I want." Terry remembers Bob and says, hey, sell your burgers somewhere else and give me the money for the bike so I can go buy tomatoes. Bob happily agrees and gives Terry cash. Terry gets rid of his bicycle to Bob and buys tomatoes from Jacob. And that is why we have money. Understand something, though. The health of an economy is not dependent on the money, but rather on the productivity of the participants. The money is just a way to facilitate taking your widgets and getting everything. You get money for your widgets, you spend the money for everything else. Win-win. Now, when we're talking about economic systems, what we're really talking about is figuring out how much money the widget is worth. Assigning value to everything is the job of the economic system. That's how it functions. So now that we've established that, let's talk about Marxism. I'm using the term Marxism here because the words socialism and communism have taken on a lot of different definitions, and I don't want to get lost in that fog. So I'm going to talk about the basic premise behind all of it, Marxist economics. And here we get Marxist economic theory at its most basic, boiled down, stripped of all bells and whistles self. Bob wants to sell his burger. In order to compute the value, Bob has raw materials. He's also put in labor to convert the raw materials into burger. Therefore, to Bob's thinking, the value of the burger is the value of the raw materials plus the value of his labor. And in a way, that seems to make sense. The value of a thing is determined by what went into making that thing. Seems logical. But here's the flaw it runs into. You see, Bob finds James, and James is hungry for burgers. It's meat time, and James is down. He's got money in his pocket, too, perfect for Bob. So Bob rolls up on James and says, great, value of the burger is the value of my raw material plus the value of my labor. Pay up. And James says, nah, that makes the burger a little too pricey for me. Peace out, I'ma go get me some chicky nuggies instead. How can Bob enforce this burger's value? How can he possibly sure that he, as a Marxist worker, is paid the true value of his burger? Well, this is where the system broke down. Because in order to do it, what invariably happens is the government steps in and purchases the burger and sells the burger and centrally plans the economy, because that's the only way to make sure the workers are getting the true value of their labor. This is where Marxist economic theory has led every single time it has been historically employed. Now, what about me and my widget? It's new. It's a brand new revolutionary thing. The Jameses of the world are going to be hot to buy it because it's so innovative and kick-ass. But it doesn't take much to make, and it's really cheap on the raw materials side, but it fills a really, really big need. Woo for me for thinking this up, right? And the government checks its list and says, nah man, no widgets on the list, go make something we know the value of. Which is why purely Marxist economies always, without fail, lag behind in terms of innovation and creativity. They become centrally planned, and their efficiency suffers as a result. So let's turn to capitalism. And capitalism is actually much, much simpler in many ways. Capitalism cares about one thing and only one thing. How much can Bob get James to pay for that burger? Prices are set based on what a consumer is willing to pay. The Bobs of the world compete with each other to make better or cheaper burgers in order to entice James's money to them. If I make super awesome widget thing, I don't care what the government thinks. I am going to get rich. It's going to be amazing. But pure capitalism always leads to an economic collapse eventually too. And here's why. Here's Bob again. He's been doing quite well for himself, and he's making some money selling burgers. And he's got things that he wants to spend that money on. Some of those things are things that he needs. Some of them are things he wants. Some of them are even things he dreams of might maybe getting at some point. And when he starts getting income off those burger sales, well, look at that. He's got enough money to buy the things he needs. And that overflows, and so he can even buy some of the things he wants. But not all, or even most. Those things he one day might maybe dream about, they're a long way off for Bob. Which means, when Bob is getting money, he's spending it. Everything in his needs and wants jar, that money gets spent making another exchange. And when he spends it on, say, that bike we were talking about from Terry, now Terry's got income. So now we've got two people that have been incentivized to produce by that $1. $2 worth of stuff, $1 changing hands multiple times. Terry, meanwhile, is doing okay in his bike store, and he's got all his needs met, and only some of his wants. He, too, is middle class. And that means all of that money goes into another exchange as he buys things for himself. Now, here's Jack. Jack is rich. Jack is really, really rich. He makes millions as the lead of an investment firm, and he's just rolling in it. Good for you, Jack. Let's see where his money is going. He's got all his needs covered, that's for sure. Spending that money. And, yep, all his wants, too. That's getting spent. And, holy crap, Jack's got everything he ever dreamed of. That one's filled, too. So where's the rest of all that money going? It's gone into his bank account. And it's just going to sit there, locked away, because Jack's making more money next paycheck, and all of them needs, wants, and dreams are getting filled again. So that extra money, it's not getting spent. It's just going to sit there, which means it's no longer out in the world convincing the Bobs and Terrys to be productive. Jack has an absolute limit on the amount he will spend, regardless of the amount he makes. And as Jack gets more money, he realizes he can use that money to pressure Bob's prices. He'll open his own burger joint and take a slimmer profit. He can do that because he doesn't really need to make as much. In fact, he'll open them all over the country and undercut the Bobs everywhere. He'll do it to the Terrys too. Cheaper bikes, everyone. And what the hell, he'll even take over the tomato industry. He can ship them up from other countries and really undercut Jacob. James is going to buy all his stuff from Jack because Jack can afford to sell it cheaper. Maybe those three can come work for Jack? But Jack will determine what he pays them, because it's not like they can work anywhere else, is it? And so, as the Jacks begin to accumulate wealth, the Bobs, the Terrys, and the Jacobs start to make less and less. And as a result, Jack makes more and more. And hey, since he's producing everything, may as well raise prices because the consumers can't get his stuff anywhere else, right? And the cycle continues. Until Bob, Terry, and Jacob just run out of money. They can't pay for their stuff, which in turn means they can't pay Jack. And since they can't pay, well, there's no reason to employ them anymore to make things. And the exchanges break down. In either a purely Marxist or a purely capitalist state, then, exchanges break down. And remember, the money is not important. The ease of exchanging your stuff for other stuff is. So if the exchanges break down, the economy has failed. So, what can we do? Well, there's two theories on how government can affect this. There's the generally right-wing theory of trickle-down economics, and the generally left-wing theory of New Deal economics. Trickle-down, in a nutshell, is the theory that Jake, our rich devil here, should be given as much money as he can. So here comes the government. The government's going to add some cash to what Jake has. He'll use that money to buy more businesses and create more jobs, and it'll circulate and help people make the exchanges. So what we do is we pour the money here. But Jake's already spending all the money he can possibly spend, and we add to it. Oh, look, we poured a bunch of money in, and now Jake has a bunch of money. Hasn't changed the number of things he's paying for at all. He just has more money now. Huh. Okay, so that didn't work. In fact, it made the problem worse in the long run. So what are New Deal economics, then? Well, that looks like this. See, the government comes into Jack's little pool here. Sorry, Jack. But look, you still have everything you ever wanted, so in the long run, you'll be fine. We're just going to take a chunk of what's left over, and where are we going to pour it? Well, we're going to head back to Bob and pour it in his glass. Now, Bob already has everything he needs, but now he can buy some more of the things he wants. And there's thousands more Bobs, and look, that extra money is getting spent now, which means there's more exchanges going on. And remember, a successful economy is measured by exchanges, not money. And what if we didn't give it to Bob? Bob's already making and selling burgers as fast as he can, but what if instead of giving the money to Bob, we hired Mark? Now, Mark's homeless and really doesn't have much in the way of skills, but maybe we can use some of this money to train him to do something. Construction, say. And then maybe he can go out and build some roads, some bridges, things we can all use, and we'll pay him for it too. And he hasn't even eaten his needs cup yet. So he's going to spend it all. He's going to pay for housing and food and those things he needs. He's coming off the street, becoming productive, and that money is heading right back into circulation to facilitate more exchanges. Hooray! The economy remains stable, and everyone continues to receive value for their widgets, and the only thing we lose is Jack's ability to stockpile wealth under his massive mattress. So you may find yourself wondering, why, if this is such a good system, is there an argument? And that is a question I will leave for a later video, because that is a question of politics and not of economics. This has been Frog Jones, giving you an obvious explanation of something very complicated.